All right. We're pretty much ready to get started. Thank you all for being prompt. We'll try to be prompt in starting this meeting and moving it along so that you have an opportunity to express your points of view with respect to this project. So, my name is Al Dobbins. I am a community planner. I am a resident of Richmond. And I'm here today to sort of MC this first introductory visionary meeting of the Lumpkin's jail site project. We have a good crowd today. That's wonderful. We have an agenda. I think everybody should have a copy of the agenda. If you don't, I believe there's some copies outside that we can bring in. But before we get into the meat of the agenda, we're going to ask Dr. Joseph Johnson, he likes to be called Joe Johnson, to come up and give some opening remarks.
I tell you, Al, thank you so much. I'm more than pleased to welcome you to Virginia Union University. My pleasure is certainly rooted in the story that started at Lumpkin's jail. We are, if you will, Lumpkin's jail. And the story is a good story. I often tell people when I tell stories that some of my stories, or true stories, I make them up. This one did not have to be made up. Somewhere around the 1860s, now, on a very hot summer day, someone was looking for a place to educate free slaves. And here in Richmond, there was no one that would rent a place to him. And that was Culver. And Culver was about 73 years old, a frail white male trying to find a place in this town. And on that same hot day, he just happened to run into Mary Lumpkin because he had given up on the fact that he might be able to find a place to start a school. We have an opportunity tonight to be reflective and to be responsive to this incredibly important project and how we might best construct and display at a very important period in our time. For those of you that have not been on this campus, I want to offer a personal invitation for you to come back. Not for a group, but just come back, unannounced. Because we have trails all around the campus that will signify the importance of this institution. The building that you're in was built after 46 years of not having built a residence hall on this campus. And this is what we call our Living and Learning Center, where we house males and females in separate quarters. One of the things I've learned at the tender age of 70 is that some things should not change. And that's one of them. The other thing that I've learned at the age of 70 is that working together really does work. And that may sound like a simple mantra, but it really, really does work. And I hope that you will embrace this experience as you provide honest feedback, as you offer questions of clarity, that we will move this forward in the years to come. Virginia Union University, since 1865, has had a sense of place. And I'm comfortable saying to all of you that this project will ensure its sense of place, not only in terms of history, but in terms of its contemporary relevance. So in that context, I want to welcome you to our hallowed grounds and dear old walls. Thank you very much.
We are indeed quite fortunate to have the opportunity to begin this journey at Virginia Union University. and we certainly appreciate the hospitality that's been offered. And we hope that you come back, as Dr. Jones has suggested, and experience more of what Virginia Union has to offer. Now I'd like to ask Delegate Dolores Lumpin to come forward to make some opening remarks. But before she talks, let me simply say that she has been the driving force behind this project, behind the Slave Trail Commission and the development of the Slave Trail, and most recently was instrumental in introducing and getting passed legislation that would honor the cemeteries that have been neglected, the African American cemeteries that have been neglected throughout the Commonwealth. So we're very pleased to have her here. Again, she is the driving force behind this project, and she'll have some opening remarks for you.
Good evening. Good evening. What a great day in the city of Richmond, in the Commonwealth, and on the campus of Virginia Union University. How about that? To Al and to Dr. Johnson and to all who's gathered. This is a wonderful, beautiful, awesome crowd here. Give yourselves a round of applause. How about that? This is, again, a great day. And before I just give my very short remarks, I do want to acknowledge and ask that if there are any elected officials, if they would stand. I do see the Vice President of the City Council, Cynthia Newbill. I thought I saw the President of City Council, Chris Hilbert. Maybe he's left already, but I do want to take the opportunity to acknowledge their presence here. This is, again, is a great day, and I also want to just greet you on the behalf of the Slave Trail Commission, and I'm going to ask that they would stand. Those who are here, would you please stand? I want to acknowledge, because even with the work that's being done, these individuals have given countless hours and dedicated to get us to this point. And so what we realize today that this is just a phase of a continuation of a master plan. This has been going on for many years. Matter of fact, for those who are not aware of it, in 1993, I think that was the first time that something was done in terms of developing and acknowledging a slave trail. And that was a unity walk. And so that was back in 1993. And from that point, it continued to grow and continue to develop. And then there was a master plan that was in 2009. And so as we're here, this is not the beginning, nor is it the ending, but it is a significant step in focusing on something great on the slave trail. You know, when I was thinking about exactly what I would say, I wanted to use the analogy of a train. And when I realized that the ride on this train has sometimes been lengthy and bumpy, and because of so many reasons, uneven tracks, lack of funding, there have been challenges all along the way. And then many times we felt like we were on an antiquated locomotive. That's exactly what, just trying to get there. Often slow moving. But at its best, what I realized happened, that there were individuals who remained focused, continued to focus and zero in on exactly what we wanted to do, what we should be doing, and how it would benefit the overall community. And so even though sometimes we felt like we wanted to be on a high-speed rail, it just didn't get to that point. And so, but I think that we can say that this is the beginning of the high-speed rail, that it's going to be moving. Not that this process is going to be moving all that fast, but I think we're going to have an opportunity to really create something, again, that's great, that will honor those of the past and leave a legacy for those in the future. And so, you know, as we come to this point, I just hope that each of us would have an opportunity tonight to just join in, to be a part of what we're doing. And it seems like a celebration. And I think that all along the way, we should celebrate what we're doing. And so we have some great individuals who are here tonight. The Smith Group who are here, and they're dynamic, have done some great things across the world. And so we are just excited about this. And so as I was told by Al to make it short, so I'm going to do just that. Again, thank you for coming and being a part of this, and we are ready to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delegate McQuinn. Okay, so here we are at the beginning of our journey. The journey will end with a concept design for the Lumpkin's jail site. We are going to take today, this is an introductory meeting, it's also a visioning meeting. We're going to introduce the team. We're going to introduce the scope of the project. We're going to talk about our approach to planning for the site. And then we are going to stop with our presentation, and we're going to ask you to share your vision of what should happen at the Lumpkin's jail site. So it's about a two-part program today. The first part with us speaking to you about the project, but the second part is the most important part and the main reason why we're here. We want to hear from you in terms of your visions, your aspirations for the Lumpkin's jail site. That information will be fed into our planning process and will be incorporated into our statement of purpose, which is the next major step in this process. So, with nothing else said, we will move on with the program. We're absolutely on time, and I would ask Robert Sullivan of Cora Creative to come forward and begin this meeting with a discussion of the project, give you an overview of the process, and get you familiar with how we're going to proceed. So Sully is coming forward. Robert Sullivan on the program, but really we call him Sully. Thank you.
Thank God. First and foremost, thank you. It's great to see this crowd. It's great to see this enthusiasm and interest. We are grateful for your time, and we need you to know you will be at the center of this project. We need to hear from you. If we do anything that doesn't function for this community, that doesn't make Richmond a better place to be and live, we have failed. And so we need to hear from you. What is it that you want us to do? What is it that's important to you? So we are active listeners. I think this whole team is anxious to listen. I met many of you out here before we came in and greeted you and tried to make you know how important you are to the success of this project. So with that, I am honored to be the spokesperson for a moment for this team. They may not let me do this for long, so I'm going to enjoy it while I can. First of all, we want you to try out your clickers a little bit. So lift up your clickers, take a look. You can see that they have little letters next to each selection. So as you look at these questions, we're going to ask you to answer them and click in, and we will give you immediate results. We will know a little bit about who you are. First of all, where do you live? A, B, C, D, E, or F. Please enter your answers now. The Sorlish Family Feud. Please enter your answers now. Everybody figured out how to get their clicker to work? And then mumbling means yes, don't worry, it's recording you. You won't see anything yet, but it's got your vote. Okay, let's take a look at how you voted. There you are. So you can see the vast majority of you are from the East End. Congratulations, East Enders. You're just behind the North Siders. Okay, next question. How long have you lived in Richmond? A, B, C, or D? Okay, everybody's figured this out very quickly. Okay, let's take a look. And the survey says, whoa! Are you telling the truth? Are you sure? That's great. Okay, Did you participate in any of the previous community meetings about this project? Yes or no? Okay, survey says. Ah. Good. So newcomers, new voices, we want to hear from you. We want you to be comfortable and participate. Speak out. That's why you're here, and we want to hear from you. So all you newcomers and you people who have been involved for a long time, glad to have you here too and hear your opinions. Okay, let's look at the next slide. We're going to go very quickly. Here's the project team. I am very proud to be part of this team. It is a world-class team that has come here to Richmond to try and work with this community to do something important, tangible, and authentic down there at the Lumpin jail site. That's what we're here for. We are privileged to have some Richmonders in the room. KEI is a local architectural firm, right up there, as you see. And Page and Graham Peck are also here. I can't see, so you're going to have to... I told you it wouldn't last long. Okay, so we're glad to have those folks, those Richmonders here representing you. Most of the rest of us are from that distant and strange place known as Washington, D.C. Okay, next. Smith Group JJR. Hale, who is the lead architect on this project, has been around for the entire 160 years of the program. I was 20 years at the Smithsonian and worked with the Smith Group on many occasions, and I can account for the fact they are listeners, they are client-centered, they really do work well with the client and with the community, and they know how to respond to community needs. Trust me, this is an architectural firm that listens. Okay? Everybody's at the table right from the beginning. That's an important, different approach that Smith Group brings to a project. We're all here tonight. As a matter of fact, 90% of the crowd works for Smith Group. But everybody's here, from the scholars to the interior designers, the archaeology people, structural engineers. Smith Group brings everybody to the table right from the beginning so we can solve problems effectively and efficiently and quickly. So it's a different approach, and it's an effective approach. Okay? We like working and hearing from communities. Functional, functional, functional. It has to work for the community. It has to be something the community actually wants. It has to solve a problem for the community. Otherwise, it won't work. We know that. We're listening. Okay? We have had a lot of work with an experience with collective traumatic memory. This is an important point to make. This is a difficult and complex thing to do. There's grief, there's remembering, and there's learning, and sometimes they're all mixed together and hard to take apart. And I've worked on everything from Holocaust shows to slavery exhibitions, as has the Smith Group. We're used to dealing with this kind of complex matter and working with the community to figure out how to do it well and in a memorable, engaging way. Okay? Cultural institutions of all sorts. Smith Group has worked, JJR has worked all over the world on cultural institutions. We've worked with them. This is a team that has worked together many times. We're familiar with each other. We're family. We know how to communicate with each other. That enables us to work well with you. So many of these projects you see up here, we have all worked on together. We're an old, familiar group, maybe too familiar with each other. Okay? Historic sites, archaeological sites, we obviously have a very interesting mix here down there in Shockoe Bottom of archaeological preservation issues, archaeological interpretation issues. It's also a historic site. It's complicated. And these guys are used to working with complicated things. For instance, in the upper right-hand corner, you see the White House, and a visitor center in the White House is about as complicated a place as you can work with. And to the left, you see the Smithsonian, where I was for 20 years. I guarantee it is a complicated place to work with. These guys know how to work on complicated projects. Okay? Our scope. Okay? The two things we have to say about this. Number one, we're focused on Lumpkin's jail and the Lumpkin's jail site and doing something authentic, tangible, real, and important there. But we understand it's a seed project. And if we do it well, if you and we work together and do something important, inspiring, and motivational, we believe it will trigger more work and more interpretation down in that area. So let's get this one done well. Let's talk and let's listen, but let's get it done. Let's get something tangible, real, important done. And then let's talk about what more we can do. We all understand this should be and can be a bigger impact project. But tonight, we're talking about Lumpkin jail site and what we can do there that's important to you and important to this community. Okay? So, as mentioned by several of the speakers before, we have not started from scratch. There has been a ton of great work done going all the way back to 1993. Dedicated people working hard and thinking. So there's a lot of shoulders that we are standing on, okay? We have read all of it, believe it or not. We have actually read all of it, all of these reports, all of these newspaper articles, all of the information we could get our hands on, so we could learn from these previous experiences and build on them. We know we're not starting from scratch, okay? We listened to Richmond Speaks and saw them, and these were the priorities that you guys all identified, those some 40% of you who have worked before on the project. We understand that these are important dimensions to the project that we have to think about and consider with you as we go forward, making sure they're still priorities, but also making sure that they're paid attention to. Okay? What are the key messages that we think are important here to remember? Richmond slavery history has to be documented and remembered and interpreted. There is a direct chain between what happened at Lumpkin's jail and what's going on today in Richmond. We have to make those links. We have to form that chain. We have to talk about the relevance of this site, not just to history, but to today. What does it mean to people living in Richmond today? Why is it still important today? So it is not just looking backwards over our shoulder, but rather how do we get that shared community understanding and that shared community commitment to the consequences of what happened at Lumpkin's jail. So we all have to work together to think through why is this critically important to living in Richmond, to learning in Richmond, to healing in Richmond, to educating in Richmond today. Okay? What are our aspirations? With your input, with community input, we want to make a proposal that knocks your socks off for the Lumpkin's jail site. When you see this proposal, you're going to say, as I often do, working with Smith Group, that is better than anything I would have thought. Okay? We're going to knock your socks off with this proposal. We want it. And we want this to be a seed project that works so well that it inspires further work on it. People understand this is a story, a Richmond story, a national story that has to be told right now. Okay? Our process is pretty simple. We talk to you, first and foremost. We meet with experts who bring us their expertise, their historical scholarship, their audience advocacy, their educational skills, all those kinds of people who can add to the subtlety, the impact, the importance of the site, and we bring back everything they do to you. Nothing gets done without you looking at it, reviewing it, and saying, yes, we like it, or yes, we don't. Here's what we would change. So the process is an integrated, iterative process, a community workshop. You're here tonight in the first one, the introductory meeting. We will then go meet with some experts on developing the statement of purpose for the project. We bring it back to you, and we talk to you once again. And we go into deep grok with experts, thinking and thinking hard. Alcyone here is a scholar who's going to think with us. Then we bring it back to you. Okay, and we do a visitor experience. What's the visitor experience going to be here? How are people going to experience this site and project? What's it going to look like? What's it going to feel? And we bring it back to you. Okay, and then finally Hal and the architectural team will do a concept. Ideas. What's it going to be? What's it going to look like? Is it a box, a bag? What is it? And we bring it back to you. And then at the last one, we say, break out the champagne, we celebrate, because we got something done. And we are going to get something done. This is no more endless talk. This is time to get it done. So we are going to get to that point right at the end in a final presentation where we all breathe a sigh of relief and say, we're on our way. Let's tip a glass to this community and this team for bringing it together. That's our process. Okay, with that, Chris is somewhere, and he's going to talk about archaeology.
Well, good evening. This is really an exciting opportunity to talk about a truly important and unique archaeological site and put it into a social and historical context that informs our thinking about who we are now. So I'm just incredibly excited to be here, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the archaeology of the site so far. We've had a brief introduction to the slave history of Richmond. Richmond was the second largest location for the domestic slave trade in the mid 19th century. That's a relatively new discovery. It's information that in many ways was covered over and lost. And what is fascinating about the archaeology of this site is that the discovery of the site and how it was uncovered and documented reflects so thoroughly back on that dark period in Richmond's past. And at the same time, there are aspects of this archaeological site and its history that, as Dr. Johnson explained, talk to something that's transformative and positive also. So the Lumpkin site, it was located, and I'll see if I can get this to work. There we go. So if you look at these 4 lots on Wall Street, which is the northern extension of 15th, also known as Lumpkin's Alley, those are the 4 main lots that Robert Lumpkin owned and where he had his slave operations, slave jail. And this is really, to use business speak, it was a vertically integrated complex that he operated. It's not just a slave jail, and that's an important thing to understand, and we'll see that going forward. So if you look here, here's the route of Shockoe Creek coming down a little ways. You come to Main Street Station. All of this area is now covered over by 10 to 15 feet of fill that was placed on the site in the 1890s, which is really, really important because it's preserved the archaeology. So the Lumpkin's jail site, we are incredibly lucky to have this representation of it that was prepared in 1876 for a description of the Culver Institute. We think this is actually pretty accurate. We have a number of written descriptions of the jail building itself, and they seem to jive with this drawing, and you'll see this come up again during my presentation. But as you can see, 2 floors. There was also an attic floor. That's where Anthony Burns was held in 1854 for 4 months. I'll give you you'll get a better perspective on that in just a second. So in this image, this daguerreotype from the 1850s, it's hard to make out, but that first area, let me go back. That's the location of the Lumpkin's house site. That's the location of the hotel that Lumpkins ran to serve for the slave traders that were coming to his site. That is the location of a kitchen and possible bar that stood on the site. That's a series of other buildings on Ross Street that we're not sure exactly what they are, but they were owned by Lumpkins also. And then we have the jail building itself, located right here. I'm going to flip to the next slide because it's a lot easier to see. Okay, this is from 1865, a photograph taken from Church Hill. And flip through real quickly. We have Lumpkin's house. We have the hotel. We have the kitchen, and the kitchen's important because it'll give you reference to the rest of the site. We have these other buildings that are located on Ross Street, and then we have the location of the jail building. The jail, if you look at this photo, you can just make out there are a couple of windows looking eastward up towards Church Hill. It's a little bit hard to make out here, but you also see the porticos that were on the north side of the building that were illustrated in that 1876 drawing. So the site was used by Lumpkins up until 1865 when he passed away. The fascinating part of the story is that he then passed the site on to his wife, Mary, a slave, who was then fortunate enough to run into Reverend Culver, who had the interest of developing a seminary, a black seminary in Richmond. And for 3 years, the Culver Institute, the Richmond Seminary, was on the site before it moved on. In the 1870s, the site was occupied by probably some tenants that were living there briefly, and then it was torn down. And the whole Shockoe Bottom Basin was filled for the Richmond Iron Works, which were constructed in the 1890s. And you'll see a couple of images of those as I go forward. This only lasted for about 15 to 20 years before a rail yard was put through here. So to give you more current perspective on the location, here is the 1835 Bates map pointing towards the location just at the foot of I-95. And many of you already know where the site is, but it's great to get that orientation. So comments that were made earlier talked about working on great information that's already been collected. There was an initial excavation sponsored by the Slave Trail Commission in 2006. There was another follow-on excavation, much larger one, in 2008. Those collected incredible information on the site and essentially will inform all of our planning going forward. The initial excavation in 2006 was fairly limited. Money was not too available at the time, and nobody knew, in fact, if the site was even there. So this was intended to prove that there was an archaeological site that was intact. And so a few trenches were dug 10 feet down below the current surface. This cobble pavement was encountered. That cobble pavement is directly associated with the Lumpkins' occupation, and you'll see that in just a moment. 2008, the Slave Trail Commission collects additional money, and a much larger excavation takes place. Just a handful of artifacts that were collected in the 2006 excavations. So this image gives you a perspective on the excavation in 2008, right at the foot of I-95. The planning that goes into doing an excavation at the base of an interstate, 15 feet down, is incredible. So this is a wall from the Richmond Ironworks that was encountered and removed so that the archaeological team could get down to the level of the Lumpkin's occupation. This is an expansion of the excavation of the cobble pavement that I showed you earlier. You'll see that this extends over a large area. There's a brick drain, etc. I want to emphasize this is 10 feet below current, or what was current grade through that area. You can see the quality of the excavations that took place and the fact that this is all intact. This image gives you a much better perspective on that cobble surface, but also the excavations done for the kitchen, which was located right there. So these are the foundations of the Lumpkin's kitchen. This would have been operated by a number of the slaves that Lumpkins had under his control. A deeper excavation was done right next to the cobble surface, and you can see this brick wall going down. This is a retaining wall that nobody anticipated would be found at the site. The retaining wall defines the distinction between two terraces. The upper terrace, where that cobble surface is located, and then a lower terrace that's about 5 feet down that is the location of the actual jail itself. This image from the 1860s shows the dividing line, if you will, between the public-facing aspects of Lumpkin's operation, the hotel, the tavern, bar, his house, and the lower area where the jail was located. And here's a great image that was collected in 2008 of the larger excavation. So you can see the location of the kitchen, the cobblestone surface, the drain. Along the edge of that is the retaining wall, and then this 5 feet further down is the remains of the jail building itself and a couple of other buildings that were located. As you can see, conditions were not optimal for the excavations. There's the approximate outline of the jail building itself. The site was filling with water. This was found probably in the last week or so of excavation, which is a truism for all archaeologists. The really important stuff always comes up in the last week or so. So there was just enough time to really document what this was down there. The historical data aligns very well with the archaeological data. It's pretty darn clear that what is down there is the foundation of the slave jail itself. But I don't want you to lose track of the fact that this is a much larger and much more complex site with many other aspects all associated with Lumpkins and his slave operations. So you can see another cobble pavement that's down there, plus the foundations. Here are a few artifacts that were collected during the excavations in 2008. A range of domestic materials. Many of these artifacts were found in the layers just above the cobble pavements. Some were directly associated with it. I mean, this is good material, well preserved, and some of it is probably or directly related to the Lumpkins. This object was found on the cobble surface. The one on the left is a bone ring, and you can see the hatching. This utensil handle, bone utensil handle, was found on Utopia Plantation down near Williamsburg. It's an 18th century slave-related object. This motif of hatching is found commonly both in West Africa and on slave-related objects. The excavators believe that this is certainly an indication that there are going to be artifacts on the site directly related to Lumpkin slaves. And then the site was recovered. Geotextile fabric was placed over it, and then the site was backfilled, and it's now in a temporary state of protection, waiting for the next round of activity. This interpretation is wonderful because it essentially blends together the archaeological data, the historical data, this image, etc. And what it shows is Lumpkin's house, Lumpkin's hotel, the tavern, kitchen, and the jail site, and the retaining wall that was found that separated the courtyard and the jail building itself from the upper area. Thank you.
So we're going to pause here, and Sally's going to come up, and we're going to do an interactive history quiz. But before we do that, can I get a show of hands of people who participated in Richmond Speaks? Okay, so the great majority of you have a lot of experience with this project and have expressed your opinions in terms of the priorities for this project. And as we've already said, we are not starting from scratch. We do understand a lot of work has been done, but we need to gather additional information so that we can do a better job of defining what the ultimate concept design will be. Now, we're getting ready after this quiz to get into the part where you speak. And so that will be an opportunity for us to listen to your vision, your goals, and your aspirations for the Lumpkin jail site. But before we do this, Sally's going to come forward and sort of break the ice with the interactive history quiz.
Thanks, Al. Rather than lecture at you about history, we thought we'd have a little fun here. So pick up your clickers again, if you would be so kind. And we're going to take a quick quiz. Okay, Heather? Number one, what country was the primary source for slaves sold in the slave trade at Chocolate Bottom in the 19th century? Was it Africa? Was it the United States? Or was it the Caribbean? Please vote. Okay, everybody thought that through carefully.
You know, Africa's not a country.
Rolling open, ready? Okay, the United States. This was the domestic slave trade, and it was focused on slaves coming from the domestic slave trade in the United States. Nice going, 53%, but that 29% and 17% is concerning. Okay, next question. A top-rated slave in 1860 sold for $1,320. In 2017 dollars, how much would that be? Okay. Now you're thinking. Come on, come on. Come on, a few more of you. Come on. Okay, let's take a look. $40,000, just to give you a sense of how enormous this industry was. It was an enormous $1 million industry going on here in Richmond. So a national story of national importance going on here in Richmond. Okay? What city was home to the largest slave trade market in the United States? And Chris, you gave this away, but let's hope they weren't paying attention. Okay? Holding here, good. Look at these guys. You're very confident about this answer, I can see. We're moving very fast. Okay. Last chance. Okay, let's look. That's right, New Orleans. Natchez was next, or Richmond was next, and then Natchez. Again, I'm concerned about that stuff. Okay. Lumpkin's jail primarily operated as a temporary lockup or jail for runaway slaves, slave trading and brokerage site, a human clearinghouse, or all of the above. There. Okay, let's take a look. Excellent. All of the above. Yes, it was all of those things. And, by human clearinghouse, this was a place where discipline was meted out on miscreant slaves. It was say it, horrible place. Okay. After inheriting the Lumpkin's jail property, what does Mary Lumpkin do with it? Here we go. Again, you're very confident here, I can see. And Chris was so eloquent about that. Thank you, Chris. All right, let's get up to 9. Where's those other 3 people? Come on. One more, come on. All right, let's take a look. Absolutely. And as you've just heard, it has a long history and comes right here to where you're sitting. It is directly connected back to that site here at BUU. Okay? In the year 1857, the sales of human beings in Richmond totaled a sum of you're a little less sure of this one. He's trying to trick us, you're thinking. Trying to make us think it's that big number, but I think it's that 2. I know what he's up to. Okay, that's good. You're right. 3 million, it was huge. It was an enormous industry, the scale of which is hard to imagine, but a huge industry here in Shockoe Bottom and Richmond. Okay. What was the alternative name for Lumpkin's jail? Come on, all those people on the slave commission are over there saying, "Oh, this is so we know all." Well, you're supposed to know it. It's the other people we're looking at. Okay, let's take a look. Absolutely, the Devil's Half Acre. Disreputable place. What's cool would eventually emerge from the Lumpkin's jail property. Okay, we're going to keep driving this home for Dr. Jones. We're going to keep driving that connection home every chance we get. Okay? Here we go. Again, remember those last 4 people who aren't sure. There they are. Okay. All of the above. We tricked you. See, you all thought I misdirected you here with it.
I was the 1%.
I told him.
We tricked you a little bit, but it was all of those things. It evolved through each of those to become the Virginia University. Okay? And that's it. You did extremely well. Thank you very much. And now